want to thank everyone for being here this morning. And my apologies for our slightly tardy start. Good morning. This hearing is called to order. Members and guests, please take their seats. And Madam Clerk, will you please call the, I'm going to take the roll. And so I want to recognize that in attendance we have Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Squilla, Councilmember Thomas, and Councilman O'Rourke. And so a quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. And this is the public hearing of the Committee on Rules regarding bills number 240012, 240066, 240159, and 240192. Madam Clerk, will you please read the title of the bills?
Bill number 240066, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Wood Street, 4th Street, Vine Street, and Lawrence Street. Bill number 240159, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Sedgwick Street, Ardley Street, Upsaw Street, Belfield Avenue, and Sprague Street. Bill number 240192, approving the Fifth Amendment of the redevelopment proposal for the Tioga Urban Renewal Area, being the area generally bounded by Hunting Park Avenue on the north, Broad Street, Germantown Avenue, Venango Street, 15th Street, Allegheny Avenue, and Germantown Avenue on the east, Glenwood Avenue and Lehigh Avenue on the south, and 23rd Street, Allegheny Avenue, and 22nd Street on the west, including the Fifth Amendment to the Urban Renewal Plan, which provides inter alia for changes that would make it consistent with the Tioga Redevelopment Area Plan and generally consistent with the most recent comprehensive plan approved by the City Planning Commission of the City of Philadelphia. And Bill number 240012, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain area of land located within an area bounded by Queen Lane, Wissahickon Avenue, Roosevelt Boulevard Extended, and Henry Avenue, to amend section 14-524 of the Philadelphia Code entitled 4th District Overlay District and make related changes all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Before we begin, I want to announce for the record that bill number 240192 is being held at the request of the sponsor. That would be me. Madam Clerk, will you first call the first panel that we have here to testify this morning, starting with bill number 240066.
There will be no testimony for 240066. It'll be 240159.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please please call forth the witnesses to testify on 240159.
Michael Gall, Senior Legislative Planner, Philadelphia City Planning Commission.
Good morning.
Chair.
How are you? Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Rules Committee. My name is Michael A. Gall. I'm Senior Legislative Planner for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on bill number 240159, introduced into City Council on March 7th, 2024 by Councilmember Bass. Bill number 240159 corrects the zoning map to reflect existing uses on 3 blocks near Stenton Station in East Mount Airy. These blocks are developed with semi-detached and attached multifamily buildings. The proposed zoning map amendments change the base zoning district of these areas to RM1 residential multifamily. This change is consistent with zoning recommendations from the Philadelphia 2035 Upper Northwest District Plan. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered bill number 240159 at its public meeting on March 21st, 2024, and recommended the bill for approval. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions at this time.
Thank you for being here and for your testimony today. We're very aware that, or I am very aware as the district council person, that these properties really were incorrectly zoned from the very beginning when they were first built and really should have had a different zoning designation. So I just want to thank you and the planning department for all of your work on this matter. Any questions from any of my colleagues on this matter? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, can we please call forward the next bill and witnesses, please?
For 240012, we have Michael Gall, Senior Legislative Planner, Philadelphia City Planning Commission, Randy E. Heyman, Water Commissioner for the Philadelphia Water Department, Jason Lee.
Oh, one, two, last.
That's the one we have.
Real quick, we do see written testimony for 2660. You did that at the last hearing.
I did, Councilman, that's correct.
Right. For the record, there is a testimony for the last hearing.
So we're just voting it out?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
First panel for 240012, again, we have Michael Gall, Senior Legislative Planner for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, Randy E. Heyman, the Water Commissioner for Philadelphia Water Department, Jason Lee, and Basil Jackson.
Good morning, Madam Chairman.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Please state your name for your record and begin your testimony.
Certainly. I'm Randy E. Heyman, Water Commissioner. Good morning, Councilmember Bass and members of the Rule Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. Again, I'm Randy E. Heyman, Water Commissioner. My team and I are here this morning to provide testimony in support of Bill number 240012. The bill will correct the zoning designation of one of Philadelphia's critical drinking water treatment facilities. The Queen Lane Drinking Water Treatment Plant is currently zoned residential, which does not include water treatment facilities as an allowable use. Since its construction in the late 1890s, the Philadelphia Water Department has operated the facility as a drinking water treatment plant, providing critical life-sustaining water to Philadelphia for more than a century. Philadelphia Water intends for the facility to remain a drinking water treatment plant for the next generation and beyond. As such, we are seeking this corrective zoning legislation to bring the facility's zoning designation in line to its current and future use. We would like to thank Councilmember Curtis Jones, Jr. for his leadership in introducing this bill to correct the zoning designation of Queen Lane Drinking Water Treatment Plant, as well as advancing similar corrective zoning legislation for the Belmont Drinking Water Treatment Plant. As you know, the mission of the Philadelphia Water Department is to provide the greater Philadelphia region with integrated water, wastewater, and stormwater services, as well as provide water for critical Philadelphia Fire Department and commercial needs. Our commitment is to protect public health by always delivering the highest quality of drinking water at an affordable cost, and to protect the environment by managing and treating the region's wastewater and stormwater. This vital work demands that we take care of our aging system to ensure we can consistently and reliably uphold our core mission as we serve the entire city of more than 1.6 million Philadelphians. That said, a significant number of major improvements to our infrastructure are needed at this time across the entire drinking water system, including upgrading drinking water treatment plants, pump stations, and storage facilities, as well as replacing miles of water mains to prevent breaks and service loss. We will be required to make these improvements while also continuing our typical operation and maintenance activities. In doing our critical work, the improper zoning designation of Queen Lane Drinking Water Treatment Plant site creates an impediment in the form of a highly consequential level of uncertainty in the planning process for our system improvements that could result in delay of necessary maintenance, security, and improvement activities at our plants, pipes, and pumping stations, thereby jeopardizing our ability to leverage federal and state funding sources. We have developed a 25-year capital plan that provides for significant upgrades to keep the water system safe, reliable, and resilient. In doing so, we're also meeting the challenge of extending capital spending over decades to keep operations running effectively and water rates affordable for our residents. PWD Water Revitalization Plan will improve system resiliency and increase the reliability of our drinking water supply in emergency situations such as the Trinzio spill into the Delaware and the boil water notice affecting parts of West Philadelphia in 2023. The Water Revitalization Plan's critical path begins with the Schuylkill River crossing, which is a large pipeline that will connect PWD's Belmont Drinking Water Treatment Plant in Winfield Heights to our Queen Lane Drinking Water Treatment Plant in East Falls, providing resilient water supply for the residents who rely on those plants. Without correcting the zoning, the need for immediate variances for early supporting projects, such as the Schuylkill River crossing, will create costly delays, pose risks to aging infrastructure and water service reliability. The revitalization plan will culminate with the reconstruction of the Queen Lane Drinking Water Treatment Plant, anticipated to begin in 2036. Another major part of our commitment to our ratepayers is our comprehensive community engagement strategy, working with impacted residents from the earliest stages of the projects and collecting their input throughout all project phases. The bill under consideration today is a clear example of our commitment to engagement. PWD worked collaboratively with the Planning Commission for Councilmember Jones to add water treatment facilities to the allowable uses under the special purpose civic, educational, and medical zoning district in an effort to avoid undesirable zoning designations such as industrial and residential neighborhoods. After multiple meetings with the East Fall Community Council, PWD has further endeavored to restrict the allowable uses of Queen Lane site to exclusively those that support PWD's mission by amending the 4th District overlay. Additionally, we have continued meeting with the group, the East Falls group leadership, to discuss and document our commitment to certain site features and our commitment to working collaboratively with the community during the design phase of the Queen Lane reconstruction project. It's important to note that there can sometimes be challenges to meeting community asks and requests because, as you know, PWD drinking water facilities are homeland security sites, in addition to being subject to local, state, and federal security requirements and regulations. Nonetheless, we consistently listen to concerns and incorporate feedback to the greatest extent that we can. The feedback that we receive will serve a crucial role in the project's design phase and will develop a roadmap at the appropriate time to design the future Queen Lane drinking water treatment plant in a way that integrates seamlessly with an East Fall community. We would like to thank the East Fall Community Council for their engagement and collaborative work that they've done throughout the process with us. Correcting the zoning designation to the special purpose civic, educational, and medical zoning will allow PWD to operate and improve the Queen Lane drinking water treatment plant as we have over a century as a right. It does not absolve us of our commitment to be good neighbors. Our responsibilities to our taxpayers or our obligation as a city entity to follow due diligence, including reviews and recommendations by the Art Commission, the Civic Design Review Committee. This corrective action is necessary to responsibly complete work on our infrastructure on schedule, thereby reducing impacts to customer costs and service interruption risks, saving both customers and the city money in the long run. It is a reasonable ask with generational benefits, and we ask you to support this bill to correct the zoning designation of Queen Lane drinking water treatment plant in the name of water security for 1.6 million people across diverse social economic backgrounds. PWD respectfully requests this bill be reported favorably out of this committee and that the rules of council be suspended to allow for first reading of this bill at the next stated meeting of the City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to appear before you today. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the panel? Councilman Jones, Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony. If I could, for benefit of the committee members and people in the chambers and those who might be listening, can you further describe what this project is? So first of all, one of the things that we discussed up here is that it is a operating water treatment plant as we speak, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us how big, how many acres, what do we talk about by way of scoop?
For that, I will ask Jesse Debs to step up. He's our engineering supervisor, drinking water facility planning. He will give you the details.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning. State your name for the record.
My name is Jesse Debs. I work for the Philadelphia Water Department.
Can you pull the microphone closer so we can hear you better?
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Jesse Debs, work for the Philadelphia Water Department as an engineer. The Queen Lane facility treats about 60 million gallons per day of drinking water and can treat up to 140 million gallons per day. In terms of physical size of the facility, I don't have a number off the top of my head, but it's bounded by US 1, Fox Street, Queen Lane, and Henry Avenue, if you can imagine the size of that parcel.
And how long has it been in operation?
It has been in operation since the late 1800s.
And in that time, whoever the elected officials were of that time did not see fit to zone it for anything other than residential?
I would probably defer to someone from the Planning Commission, but it may predate zoning code.
Well, let's assume, and if somebody can answer that.
I think Planning Department, yeah, do you want to come forward? Please state your name again for the record and proceed.
Michael Gall for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. At the time, the Philadelphia didn't have a zoning code. So this predates Philadelphia zoning laws.
That makes sense. That's the end of it.
Did you want me to read my whole testimony? I could.
All right, thank you. It's on the record. Can you further, Commissioner, describe the nature of this project, the duration of this project, the cost of this project for the record?
I'll have Jesse come back, but I will start off by saying that the water revitalization plan, I'll talk in totality.
You got to move your mic a little
You can't look
closer.
at
Your
just
microphone,
one
please.
piece of the puzzle. The water revitalization plan, $2.5 billion over 25 years. It will be 400 projects, and they have to be done sequentially. Okay, so we can't be haphazard in how we line it up, and we have to be able to receive the funding. We're seeking to receive federal loan, low-interest loans. And our failure to give them confidence that we can do the project and that we have everything lined up to go forward jeopardizes our ability to get the loans. If we lose the loans, we're looking at rising rates for customers. But the Queen Lane project is $763 million by itself. And then also the Schuylkill River crossing is $260 million. Go right ahead.
Didn't you have a diagram showing, illustrating the work to be done? I kind of remember seeing that. And if not, can you describe what we're talking about? It's mammoth.
Oh, it's mammoth. As far as the Schuylkill River, it's going to go underground from Belmont to the other side of the shore and then up through easements to the Queen Lane plant. And so it is a massive project. And the Queen Lane design, I think, begins, or actually, I mean to say, the Schuylkill River starts 36?
The design phase for the Schuylkill River crossing is beginning this year. And the design phase for the Queen Lane drinking water treatment plant reconstruction is anticipated to begin in 2030 or 2031.
And do you have specifics as to what will be redesigned, reconstructed at the plant for the record? Like what types of projects you mentioned? How many projects? The total processes?
For all of the revitalization plan is 400 projects.
Can you give us some, not all 400, but a general understanding? And I don't want to say this so that the impacts potentially to the community,
Okay.
what will they be experiencing during this project?
Sure. So the projects in the revitalization plan are primarily focused on our drinking water facilities. It includes reconstruction of storage reservoirs, pump stations, treatment plants, expansion of treatment plants, new treatment processes, essentially modernizing our drinking water facilities.
So it's a total reconstruction.
Total reconstruction,
At
tear
the
it down
Queen
and
Lane
rebuild.
plant, yes.
Okay. All right. And so, if I understood you correctly, you have the burden of providing this water treatment plant for the benefit of the city of Philadelphia. It is a total reconstruction that will not only deal with the plant on the surface, but underground, a mile down, under the water, up to the City Avenue treatment site in order to provide valve systems and safeguards and for the treatment of the water, correct?
And redundancy, so that if we
And
were to have a
redundancy.
chemical spill, we could pull water from either the Delaware or the Schuylkill, which is a great benefit.
Which I didn't totally appreciate until the water advisory happened and the complexity of what happened and understanding, then it took on a different priority. Drinking water is essential. But, however, and nevertheless, the immediate community, and we'll hear from them, is concerned that this project, what is it, 10 years? Or will it start in 10 years?
Well, give the
The design phase will begin around 2030, 2031.
So even though for us in real time, yeah, but for homeowners, this is a ongoing property value potentially altering project. So what we're experiencing here today, and you'll hear from the community, is the compelling argument that the department has for all of the city compared to the people who have to, live next to it. And so what I want to do is get on the record what the project is and then hear from the community about what their community benefit concerns are, if that's all right, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. This sounds like, again, as described, a massive project, and I can't even, begin to figure out, if I lived in a neighborhood, how I would feel about it. Probably not so great. But we want to, take an opportunity to hear from the community and hear their thoughts, so that we're just not telling them, all right, you got to take one for the team, because it is something, as you said, that was, very important. It's critical for water safety for the entire city. I'm still trying to wrap my head around just how complex this is. Have we ever done anything, even on a smaller scale, anything similar?
This
Are
is
we-
the
are we-
rebuilding of an entire plant, and I don't believe that has been done before.
Are we modeling this off of something that was done somewhere else, another city or municipality that has done this? Have we looked around for best practices before we take on such a huge undertaking? Or we're just, this is something new and, yeah, okay.
I'll have Mark Camerata come
Okay.
up, Assistant Deputy Commissioner.
Hi.
Good morning.
Members of council. It's nice to see you again. Mark Camerata, Philadelphia Water Department, Deputy Water Commissioner for Planning and Environmental Services. We will be making similar investments at the Belmont treatment plant. So we're not modeling over maybe what others are doing, but we'll be modeling over what we are doing ourselves by making
Okay.
significant impacts to Belmont.
So Queen Lane will be first, and then Belmont.
We'll be making modifications to Belmont sooner than we will Queen Lane.
Okay.
Jesse had mentioned that the design is going to be initiated in 2030, probably about a 4 or 5 year design process, but the construction of this plant, because of its sheer size, will be many, many years. As the commissioner mentioned, commensurate with an $800 million investment, which that number is probably a little bit outdated at this point.
Okay.
The revitalization plan is 10 major projects, although we're citing 400 projects. There's 10 substantial projects that need to be made that are sequential, that allows us to provide this redundancy.
So how many years do we expect the project to exist on the Queen Lane side?
The active construction at Queen Lane, or once we make the investment at Queen Lane?
Well, at the construction site, like once you put your first shovel in the ground, how long will it be?
I would expect that to 5 years plus, at least, maybe 10 years.
Plus what?
I can get you that number. I mean,
Okay.
it's as you mentioned
'Cause
before,
it could
it's
be
a
plus
substantial
5, it
footprint.
could be plus 10, it could be,
I'll get you a better answer. Again, we're in the planning process, right? These are all estimates. All this stuff will get defined and refined as we move into the design process. We can talk about how we'd be doing the staging and sequential phasing of what will be, again, a substantial investment. But I'll get you a better number. I probably shouldn't even have said 5. I have a feeling it would be a longer duration than that, given the magnitude of it. And just to reiterate, I mean, the Schuylkill River crossing, which the commissioner mentioned, is one that's more immediate. We need to be able to have the flexibility to send water back and forth between Belmont and Queen Lane. That provides a level of redundancy and risk abatement. The idea then is to upsize Belmont so it can serve a larger portion of the city as Queen Lane gets taken out of service for us to make those upgrades. So think about it from a risk mitigation standpoint, how quickly, when you shut down one plant and you're relying on the city with only 2 plants, there is a level of risk associated with that. So timing is of the essence, and I think that's the one thing that needs to be stressed here is scheduling, trying to balance this schedule when you're making the investments that we're talking about here over the next 15 to 25 years or so.
If I may add,
Yes.
passing this legislation does not give us carte blanche ability to do anything that we wish. We still are bound by being good neighbors with them. We have met with them and we will continue to meet with them. And we have actually developed an MOU stating very specifically some things that we're willing to do. The difficulty we have is that we're years before we're actually going to have the engineering designs. And so it's hard for us to agree to things before we actually have the design of what we're going to do. And also technology may change by the time
It will.
time to
I'm sure it
implement
will. So, well, Commissioner, let me just say that, like I work with you quite a lot. I text you probably every day, every other day about something that needs to be addressed. And you have been great to work with and a person of your word. But this is a long time. So if it was, like a 12-month, 18-month project, which is probably like about the standard for Philadelphia projects, I think that, it might be looked at a little bit differently than asking people to endure what's probably going to be a difficult construction site, inconvenience and all those kinds of things for a very long time. It's really going to change, the quality of life for those residents, but
If I may, I would add that
sure.
in this process, they will go through other administrative hearings, okay? You will have the Art Commission, the Historical Commission, the Civic Design Review, and will go through Planning Commission. And so these are all situations where there'll be administrative hearing, they'll have a chance to discuss their concerns, we'll discuss our issues, and there will be a chance to come to a meeting of the minds at all 3 of those.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your testimony. And as this goes, it seems like the design is going to be taking place in 2030, 31, so you really don't know the full extent of it. But if you look at your construction site and staging, would staging be off your site, will be on your site? You have no idea at this point, correct?
We will be staying within the footprint of the site.
You will stay within the
Within the
footprint.
footprint of the site.
And that's something that would be, you could agree to?
Yeah. Again, we're very early on, but these are the discussions we want to have with the community. We've had with the community, and we'd like to just consider to keep them engaged, to hear input, to be able to share information as it comes in. I wouldn't even say we're in the planning process, we're in the conceptual process for the Queen Lane site.
Right.
As we move advanced planning into design, as information comes to light, we absolutely will share that. We've set up a stakeholder advisory group. We have a commitment to meaningful, inclusive community engagement, not just for this project, for every project we do. And the idea is to meet early, to meet often, to share information, to share ideas, to gather community input, because we want to continue to be a good neighbor. Again, not just for this project, but for the investments we make in every community in the city.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think you guys do a great job of that. But sometimes when you have other aspects of other meetings, CDR or advisory, other things, sometimes the community wants some more concrete, something that they could rely on in the future. This is going to be, I don't know if any of us will be here when this starts, so maybe Cindy or me. Isaiah's young enough to be here. But, it's just important to make sure that those concerns are met in some type of way that would make people feel comfortable, and so hopefully that could happen during this process.
And we've met with them, we've talked with them, I think, about a year and a half as far as the community, and we've met with them and worked with them in the last 2 weeks. And we have an MOU that on the Philadelphia water side has some very specific things that we're able to do. And so we're willing to do those things. Our concern is that this isn't just a house that's going up or just an office building that's going up. It's a water treatment, and as a result, it's part of Homeland Security. And so we have those rules and regulations that we have to act upon. So there's security issues and all, so we're limited in some of the things that we're able to give.
Is there certain funding requirements? Are you receiving money that you need certain things to be in place?
We need certain things to be in place so that when you apply for the loan, there's an understanding that we're capable of actually finishing the project. Okay, they're not going to give us the funds if it appears that we don't have everything in a row, which makes sense. And so it's imperative that, since it is sequential, that we line up what needs to be done and that we're able to show with confidence that we're ready to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your work on this issue. I have to leave the meeting to attend other council business, but I would like to be recorded as voting aye on all bills and resolutions coming before the committee today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Okay. Unless there's no other questions from the panel, we will have our next, I have the clerk call the next panel of witnesses up. Thank you.
From the East Falls Community Council, we have Hillary Langer, Paul Alia, Paul Boney, and Charles Hines.
My apologies. We missed the administration. Please begin your testimony. We can have the other folks come forward. You can sit like right along the front here.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Good morning, members of the Rules Committee. My name is Michael A. Gall. I'm the Senior Legislative Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 240012, introduced into City Council on January 25th, 2024 by Councilmember Jones. Bill number 240012 amends the Philadelphia zoning code and maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Queen Lane, Wissahickon Avenue, Roosevelt Boulevard extended, and Henry Avenue, and to amend section 14-524 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled the 4th District Overlay District in the East Falls neighborhood of the Lower Northwest Planning District. This bill will remap the Queen Lane Water Treatment Plant from RSA2, Residential Single Family Attached, to SP Civ, Special Purpose Civic, Educational, and Medical. The current use as a water treatment plant is not permitted in RSA2, and water treatment facilities are a permitted use in the SP Civ district. This remapping will enable the Philadelphia Water Department to move forward with improvement projects to the treatment plant without needing a use variance. The proposed text amendments create a sub-area within the 4th District overlay for the Queen Lane Water Treatment Plant that will limit the permitted uses to water treatment facilities and accessory uses to that. These text amendments result from meetings between the community and the Water Department to protect the neighborhood from undesired uses on the site. This bill also places restrictions on wireless service facilities. Since the bill's introduction, PWD and the community have agreed to proposed amendment further restricting on-site wireless service facilities to building-mounted antennas for municipal use. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 240012 at its public meeting on February 15th, 2024, and considered it as an item in accord with previous policy that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. So if I understand this correctly, we go from a pre-zoning code use, which was residential, to now a classification that only allows water treatment plants.
Effectively, yes, on this site particularly. The SP Civ district allows a number of civic, educational, and medical uses, but because of the bill's changing of the 4th District overlay, it would restrict this particular site to major utilities and services, correct?
And it might seem crazy to say, what else could it be used for? But if you look in the 21st Ward, there was literally consideration of our old reservoir for housing, because it's a desirable neighborhood. And I can't imagine that East Falls wouldn't continue someday in the future to be that desirable neighborhood that some bright engineer might say, hey, let's build townhomes around the circumference and call the reservoir a lake, and, you know, man-made lake or something like that. So this prohibits those types of uses, correct?
That's correct, Councilman. That's correct.
Okay. Is there a reason we cannot have, and I guess I should ask the commissioner his opinion on this too, the proposed community benefit agreement in the zoning? And that's something I'm gonna bring to the law department as well.
Okay.
That the concerns which we will hear from the community be incorporated in the tenets of the zoning. What is your view on that?
To my understanding, that is outside the purview of the zoning code. That is something that the zoning bills cannot do and have be enforceable. That would be something between the water department, or the water department, the law department, and the community. So that's outside the purview of what we're trying to accomplish with the actual bill itself here.
And that is the genesis of the concern from the community, that 10 years from now, when I'm in the old folks' home, who's going to be enforcing this, and is it going to be more than just a piece of paper if you follow their concerns? Now, do I believe in the water department, good faith? Yes, I do. But this commissioner might not be here as well, you know? And so what they're looking for is some trust but verify, enforceability. And in your mind, this has not been able to be accomplished through a zoning bill.
To my knowledge, this is not something that can be accomplished through a zoning bill.
Okay.
That would be a separate action.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No additional questions? Okay, well, thank you for your testimony. Madam Clerk, please recall that last panel of witnesses to testify.
From the East Falls Community Council, I have Hillary Langer, Paul Elia, Paul Boney, and then I have Charles Hines.
And could someone from this panel, if they're willing to read what that proposed community benefit agreement, the tenets of it that are in question, somebody from that side?
I go first. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Hillary Langer. I am the chair of the East Falls Community Council Zoning Committee. East Falls Community Council, on behalf of the community of East Falls and feedback received from our members since January of 2023, opposes this bill today. East Falls Community Council supports the goal of reconstruction of the water treatment facility and the ultimate rezoning of the site to keep the funding, planning, design, and reconstruction on track. I'm going to repeat that. We support the goal of reconstruction and rezoning of the site. However, it would be irresponsible to do so at this time without sufficient protections for our community. This facility is intimately situated in our neighborhood, and concerns about edge conditions, such as landscape, buffers, lighting, must be ironed out now. I'm going to repeat that again. Edge conditions, landscaping, buffers, and lighting. We're not redesigning the plant. We're concerned about edge conditions. And these need to be ironed out now before all leverage is lost from this point on. During our year-long series of meetings with representatives of the Water Department, the mutual understanding and commitment of the Water Department between EFCC and the Water Department is that we will support the rezoning with the simultaneous crafting of an enforceable community agreement. This agreement would contain minimum protections for the community to prevent site lighting overspill, offensive razor wire top fencing along public sidewalks, such as exists today on Fox Street, for example, noise control, and would provide buffers at unattractive parking areas, along with much needed improvement of site maintenance and upkeep. The Water Department, throughout this last year, repeatedly agreed that the requirements would be placed into an agreement. Indeed, the Water Department, in its PowerPoint presentation to us, stated it would enter into a community agreement with us. That commitment appears to have been withdrawn. Despite recent Water Department assertions that there are sufficient safeguards in place through historic commission and civic design reviews, through political leverage, these are not sufficient for us, and they should not be sufficient for City Council. Any conditions recommended at these reviews, especially the civic design review, are merely optional. For the Queen Lane plant, the Water Department indicates it will not begin the design phase until 2030 or 2031. The reconstruction is expected to run from 2036 to 2042. Notwithstanding that the work is so far away, the Water Department is requesting an ordinance now for by right zoning, allowing the Water Department almost free rein. Given the proximity of so many homes, we are concerned. The rezoning requested now, if implemented, would strip the community of all this leverage that we currently have with the residential zoning. Over the last year, we have asked for two types of protections before the rezoning bill moves forward. First, we are asking for the Water Department to enter into an enforceable agreement, establish the basic parameters that we already spoke about. Second, we ask that the redevelopment of the facility be required to follow an official master plan that would be prepared by the Water Department and reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission and City Council. A process used for other large properties in the city which impact the communities around them. We are currently striving with the Water Department to develop an agreement through meetings, and we are making progress. However, we need more time so we can complete our collaboration, and we request this bill be held by Councilmember Jones until we have a signed agreement by all parties. Further, we ask that Councilmember Jones put more pressure on the Water Department to do the right thing for the community. We're making very reasonable requests. If you lived across the street from the facility, like we do, you'd be sitting here at the witness table making the same requests we're making today. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. That's it. Next witness, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning. My name is Paul Aaliyah. I'm a resident of East Falls. I'm a close neighbor. I live on Queen Lane. I've been an architect for 35 years and a member of the East Falls Community Council Zoning Committee for 10. I'm testifying in opposition to this bill as well. I became aware of this bill back in January when PWD tried to have it passed without any community improvement. January of last year, just to be clear. There was no community involvement, no community outreach, there was no information provided. We heard about the bill in the 11th hour and requested Councilman Jones to pull it, and he graciously did. The bill had contained at that point uses that were totally inappropriate for a residential neighborhood. Transit stations, strip malls, medical facilities, and transmission towers with building heights in excess of 5 stories. All of that is an aggressive move in a very established, old residential neighborhood. PWD assured us that they would provide us with an agreement that we would find acceptable. Then they changed their mind. We're all in support of the project, but PWD can't and won't provide any assurances as to the handling of that this project will not disrupt the quality of life in East Falls, that this project will not become a municipal compound with service trucks and loading docks, that it will not become more of an eyesore than it currently is. We've asked for a master plan to let the residents know what's being planned and how. And we've asked for a simple, enforceable, reasonable agreement, which we drafted in 2 weeks, and asked for reasonable assurances. To both requests, the Water Department said no. Just no. They ignored and delayed numerous requests to meet. We provided that agreement back in November. We did not get a response to our agreement until last week. We're asking that this bill be revisited and be revised to mandate a city-approved plan and have the PWD enter into an agreement with East Falls before the zoning is changed. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask the Water Commissioner to return because I really want to hear your response, Commissioner. Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so.
So,
I would hate to think that the Water Department would undertake such a massive project without community input or without any assurances or without considering a community benefits agreement that's being actively worked on.
Oh, we have met with them.
Please put a mic, state your name for the record and
I'm sorry,
proceed.
Randy Heyman, Water Commissioner. We have met with them, with the neighborhood for over 1.5 years. There have been community meetings that we've attended. Now, they want a written agreement. They want a contract, okay? And basically, the Planning Commission has said that such an agreement is not required, okay? That type of agreement would be used for a mixed-use entertainment district, a situation where we have people entering the facility. That is inherently not what we have at Queen Lane. This is a fenced-off area that is under Homeland Security. Now, they want a signed agreement that they basically would be able to bring to court, okay? That's really what they want to do. The problem that we have is on a couple of levels. Number one, they are one group. We could very well have another group come up next week that says that they too have ideas and differ from what they wish to do. We met and we were willing to do an MOU, and we have an MOU that outlined in detail some of the things that we were willing to do, including some of the things they mentioned here just a moment ago. They wanted to say that they didn't want barbed wire fences. Well, with fences, we said, no new permanent cyclone fencing will be installed along the exterior perimeter. Cyclone fencing may be used as a temporary fencing as required by security during the construction. No new barbed wire, which you mentioned barbed wire, no new barbed wire will be installed along the exterior perimeter of Queen Lane area. Stone walls, PWD will preserve and replace the existing exterior. There are over 10 items that we go in specific detail of what we're willing to do. With sound, PWD will provide sound attenuation for new generators to not exceed 5 decibels above background level measured at the property boundary of the nearest occupied residential property. This shows we are taking consideration the needs and the requests that the community has made. We have over 10 examples of where we, in the MOU, state that we're willing to do this. The problem is anything beyond this MOU would jeopardize the funding opportunities that we could have. Because what could happen, you could have a situation that the city, and this is based on what we've been instructed by council, that the city does not want, or the legal team does not want us to enter into a legal contract with them. That's not how these matters are handled in the real estate arena. And as such, we're following the direction we're being given by the legal counsel.
So, Commissioner, let me just say this, based on something that you just said, which is that, the City of Philadelphia, the Water Department is not required, that we are not required to enter into a MOU or to a community benefits agreement. And even if it's not legally required, I think that we in government have to ask ourselves, is it the right thing to do? And knowing, as we all said, this project is massive. This project is going to be an inconvenience to the neighbors. There needs to be some consideration that some of their asks are not just dismissed, especially because we know that they're really going to be inconvenienced as a service to the entire city of Philadelphia. There's no doubt in my mind, at least, and I'm going to let Councilman Jones take over after this, but there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be an impact to property values as a result of this construction project, at least during the term of the project. And so, if I was intending to sell my home or buy a home, I might be waiting for this project if I'm interested in buying, because maybe the market is very likely it's going to come down, or if I'm interested in selling, let me get out now, or I'm going to have to hold my position for at least 5 years, five plus years. So, the idea that we don't have to do it, so we're not going to do it, to me is not the right approach. And like I said, we've worked together a lot. I have the utmost respect for you and the department, but I think, in my opinion, we're just wrong on our approach on this. That's my opinion. I want to turn it over. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
So sometimes up here, we have to be Solomon without the wisdom. So what I am thinking of is, what you said was that we aren't required, and that was the phrase used. So I want to ask the Planning Commission, can we incorporate that, though, into the agreement somehow? And I want to raise that. First of all, did we submit the proposed agreement for the record?
The MOU,
The MOU?
I believe you have. If not, we will draft MOU.
Okay, well, I want us to do that so that there is some record that these are the things that the community and the Water Department, in theory, felt were okay. And is that true on behalf of the community? That other than the enforceability of that agreement, there's some consensus about the tenets of the agreement. Is that correct?
The original agreement that we put together and provided to the Water Department back in November was returned only last week, which I have not had an opportunity to review. I read it through quickly, and it was pretty much gutted. Many of the options that we had put in our version were commented on to be considered by the Water Department. It was not an agreement, and a memorandum of understanding has no commitment value. So we can submit our version as well if you would like to see the difference between the two.
If you could provide that to the chair, and what I'd like to do is then give us a pause for a week to work with the law department to see if it can't be in this, how do we amend so that it is to a degree enforceable? Because the reality is you're going to go on and run some utility in the private sector and make millions and millions of dollars, and I want you still to return my call when you do.
I want to state one, if
Oh,
we'll
wait a
finish,
minute,
please, sir.
Let me finish, Commissioner. And then that community, all of us are going to be kind of gone. And in 2030, on 31, the owners of those properties or their heirs are going to be faced with what did they agree to shake hands about? And other than what's in this record, they need to be able to fall back on, well, you said, you know, you weren't going to do 5 decibels of sound, and here we are at 7. And what is the recourse of that? And even if it's just in the record so that there's some civil suit that can happen, I think it's worth memorializing. And I understand the compelling interest of the department to want to move this project because we have money on the line. We have service of water on the line, and I totally get that. But I want to move it out of committee, Madam Chair. Give us a week to work with the Water Department Planning Commission to figure what pieces we can put in place to give this community a little bit of a leg to stand on. And if that's just my opinion.
If I may,
Yeah.
may respond.
Yes.
I believe some of what I said may have been inartful in this respect. It's not that we don't have to do it. What the engineers are telling me is that it's too early in the process. We don't even have we have a conceptual design of what's going on. And so for us to be tied to a legal document that says you must do X, where we're still at the conceptual design stage, is premature. And I think it will hamstring the engineers as far as what we're able to do. But nevertheless, I do go back to the fact that we have the MOU and we have 10 items. I didn't go in great detail on what they were, but they were, the ones I showed you were very specific. We are willing to listen to them, and we've had very specific things we're willing to do in the MOU. So we have those 10 items. The other thing is the MOU has strength in this respect. We are sitting in a public forum today. This is documented, that the city, the water commissioner, the water department is willing to do these 10 things, and we're willing to have an MOU, and we're willing to continue to speak, and we understand that the agreement, the changing of the legislation does not give us carte blanche to do just anything, that we have to be good neighbors, and we will continue to walk that path with them.
Can you
So I
read
will leave
into
it
the
at that.
record those 10 things, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you read into the record?
You want me to read them into the record? Okay,
Yes.
sure. Just, it'll be lengthy, but give me a moment, please.
Should you submit it in writing?
Yeah, and submit them in writing.
And submit it in writing.
And we want to compare
Okay.
what the community is talking about versus what they're agreeing to.
Okay, if we look at, it'll be page 2.
Could I ask you to read?
No, I'm going to read what he asked me to read first, and then we can go back to that part of it. The specific commitments. PWD is committed to incorporating the items identified below into their design process, provided they do not compromise the Queen Lane Water Treatment Plant core mission and security. PWD will also take into consideration items identified in the attached Exhibit A during the design process. Number 1, community meetings. PWD representatives will meet with EFCC leadership on a biannual basis beginning in 2025. The purpose of this meeting is for EFCC to provide input and feedback on the aesthetic edge conditions of the site during the water revitalization plan and Queen Lane Water Treatment Plant construction design process. B, PWD will continue to provide EFCC with regular updates and get updates and get feedback on water revitalization plan projects, including the upcoming Schuylkill River crossing, through email, community listening sessions, and water revitalization plan newsletters. Lighting, and this is one where we were very detailed. PWD will develop a lighting plan as part of the design of the Queen Lane Water Treatment Plant reconstruction project. That's A. B, PWD will adhere to the following design standards applicable to lighting. Number one, exterior lighting will be shielded through the use of full cutoff fixtures so that they do not cast direct light beyond the property line next to the residential areas and public right-of-ways. 2, all light sources will be designed, located, and installed so that the light source is not visible from any residential district. 3, the maximum height of light poles and wall mount lights will be 25 feet within 50 feet of any residential district or any lot in residential use, and 35 feet in all other areas. PWD will utilize best practices as part of the design of the reconstruction of Queen Lane water treatment plant to help shield and the facility at its source and minimize nighttime impact on neighborhood properties while meeting industry standards and required security design. Number 3, fencing. No new permanent cyclone fencing will be installed along the exterior perimeter of the Queen Lane treatment plant site. B, cyclone fencing may be used as temporary fencing as required for security during the construction phase. C, no new barbed wire will be installed along the exterior perimeter of the Queen Lane water treatment plant site. Number 4, access drives and parking. A, all new permanent access drives will be on Fox Street. 1, PWD reserves the right to maintain existing access driveway locations. B, gates for vehicular access will be aesthetically consistent with exterior fencing. Number 5, stone walls. PWD will preserve and replace the existing exterior stone walls along Queen Lane. Number 6, natural planted buffers. PWD will develop a landscape site plan as part of the Queen Lane Water Treatment Plan reconstruction project. 7, sound controls. PWD will provide sound attenuation for new generators to not exceed 5 decibels above background level measured at the property boundary of the nearest occupied residential property. 8, historic preservation. PWD will preserve and continue use of the Beaux Arts structure at the west side of Fox Street, south of Queen Lane. B, PWD will incorporate the existing historical marker on the corner of Queen Lane and Fox as part of the Queen Lane Water Treatment Reconstruction Project. Number 9, site setbacks. PWD will preserve the existing fence setback distance to the existing curb line along Queen Lane. See Exhibit B attached. Number 10, future building limitations. Any chemical storage will be located at least 100 feet from Queen Lane, 100 feet from Henry Avenue, 100 feet from the section of Abbotsford Avenue between Henry Avenue and Stokely Street, and 50 feet from Fox Street. B, reconstruction of Queen Lane water treatment plant will adhere to Philadelphia's sustainability requirements as defined in Philadelphia Code Chapter 17-100, Procurement Contract 17-111, 1, Energy Efficiency and Environmental Design and Construction Buildings. Now after that, it talks about additional limitations. In the interest of time, it's basically saying that in line with the Homeland Security.
The tenets of what you said. We'll submit that in writing. And so what, on behalf of the chair, what I'd like to do, because we may lose quorum, is thank you for that, and then let's bring up the next people to testify.
If I could, read the sentences that have not been included in the commissioner's testimony.
So you can submit that.
I read what I was asked to read.
All right, so what I'm saying is I want both renditions so that we can take a look at, and we'll try to work over the week, Madam Chair, to figure out how we can, what the differences are in what the community wants and what the Water Department is comfortable with, A, and then B, how do we safeguard, attach, where applicable,
Yes.
to assure the community that 10 years from now, other than what's in the record today, is considered. Give us a week.
Well, Thank you, Councilman. So just a couple of things. The first is that Council President has appointed Councilmember Rue Landau to the committee so that we can make quorum. My apologies, but we are going to have to move things up rather quickly because we're going to lose that quorum and any ability to further conduct business. So what Councilman, you're going to be quiet, Councilman Jones is going to convene the East Falls Community Council, along with the Philadelphia Water Department, to work out the community benefits issues that exist. I can tell you that, Councilman Jones is, committed to making sure that is going to happen, because we certainly I don't feel comfortable. I live a stone's throw from East Falls in Mount Airy. I don't feel comfortable with the idea of what's going to happen to what are essentially my neighbors, and that they would be so inconvenienced for my benefit and for the benefit of, everybody else in the city, and that they have to just sort of like take one for the team. So, Commissioner Hayman, I know that you probably agree, feel the same way, and, are going to be working towards finding a more suitable community benefits agreement that works for them. So what we're going to do at this time is sort of do things a little bit in reverse, so that, because I know we have a number of people who are here who want to testify, and we want to hear your testimony, but we are going to move forward and conduct the business of voting out these bills, and then go back in to hear your testimony. And so that's what we're going to be doing going forward. So give us 1 second, please.
Without a favor.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, this is the public meeting to report Bill number 240012. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill number 240012.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair, and for the record, we have a quorum for the meeting. I move Bill number 240012 reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation without a rule suspension.
Second.
Okay, the bill has been, well, I want to recognize that Councilmember Jones seconded the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 240012 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, with favorable
With a
recommendation.
favorable recommendation, and further move, no rule suspension, and further move that the rules of council not be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. And so essentially what that means is that the bill has been voted out of committee with a favorable recommendation. However, it will not sort of be fast-tracked, moved along until some of these other conversations with Councilman Jones happens. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill number 240159.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill number 240159 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
Chair knows for the record that Councilmember Jones seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 240159 be reported from this committee with a reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? No. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill number 240066.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill number 240066 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
Chair notes for the record that Councilmember Jones seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 240066 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, the ayes have it and the motion carries. And again, Bill number 240192 is being held. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go back to the public hearing. Thank you very much, Councilmember Landau, and have the next witnesses testify. I'm sorry, did you have something else you wanted to add before you leave? Okay.
Our attorney will.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and Councilmember Jones, thank you very much. My name is Paul Bonney, and I'm a zoning and land use attorney representing the East Falls Community Council regarding the proposed rezoning of the Water Department's Queen Lane Water Treatment Facility. I guess I was going to ask you not to vote the bill out of committee, but it is a pleasure to see everybody this morning. I want to point out, as my client was about to, that later in the document that the commissioner was reading from, it says, this MOU does not create any rights, duties, benefits, substantive or procedural, enforceable against either party in any way. So, in a way, Mr. Councilmember Squilla, you had put your finger on the issue when you used the example of, will all your staging materials be on site or would you need to be off site? Actually, we don't think that's going to be a major issue, but you used that as an example, and you asked the deputy commissioner, would you be willing to agree to that? And you used the A word, agree to that. And that was the part of the question that he was not really able to answer, and talked about we're going to meet early and often and have a lot of discussions. And that really is the crux of the main crux of the disagreement between the parties and why we're here today, is that the Water Department is willing to make some pledges and to say, yeah, we really want to do it this way with the lights and the fencing and all the rest, and we're really going to try, and, you know, but we're not willing to put it into an enforceable agreement. So that is one of the main impasses that we have. You know, I think when it comes to and we really are talking, as Mr. Langer talked about, the landscape buffer around the edges, the fence around the edges, the lighting around the edges. That's most of what we're talking about. And so let me get through my statement here. When East Falls Community Council hired me towards the end of last year, the request of me was very simple from the outset. This is why they hired me, to negotiate the language of a binding enforceable agreement with the Water Department. The fact that it would be an agreement was not a question, because all throughout last year, the discussions between the parties was that it would be an agreement, that it would be a community benefit agreement. And even in my materials, I gave you some excerpts from PowerPoint presentation that the Water Department gave to the RCO, where they used just that language, the language of agreement, community benefits agreement, and whatnot. That is now no longer the Water Department's position, and I'll sort of paraphrase. We want City Council to, we want you to make it so that the Water Department is held to its word. They told us they would enter into an agreement with us, and that's what they should do. We're more than willing to discuss the terms and the height and the this and that and the other. We could probably work that out. We think we gave them about what the commissioner read to you was a good start. It was probably about a third of the things that we asked for, but it is a good start. There is a second part to our request, and the second part of our request is that the bill should be amended to classify the property as a master plan district. And that means that there would be a city-required master plan that would have to be reviewed and approved by planning and reviewed and approved by city council. That would give the district council person, city council, but especially the district council person, some real leverage in the process. A master plan is not a finely detailed document, but it's your basic building blocks, and it can talk about the landscaping and the fence and the whatnot. And if there was a problem in it, then the council person would be in an agreement to sort of fix that problem. It leads me to a final observation. And the question is to why does this bill even exist at the present time? And we don't really see a good reason why it even needs to exist now, this year, or even this decade. The project won't occur for many, many years out into the past. But if you wanted to proceed now, we would hope that it would at least be amended to include a master plan district that, along with a signed agreement, we think would do the trick. We are certainly not interested in to get even close to holding anything up, to compromising any sort of funding, to getting into what this plant, the inside of this plant is and how they do all that. We don't really care. We're very proud as a community, as design professionals, architects, and as a community, incredibly proud of the history of the water department. We're really, historically speaking, one of the proudest parts of this country's evolution in terms of water treatment and providing clean water. That's a tremendous legacy. We're happy that it's in our neighborhood. No one's touching any of that. No one is touching any of this Homeland Security stuff. We know Homeland Security is going to trump anything that we're talking about. And if Homeland Security requires something, and we put a big paragraph in our document that says Homeland Security preempts everything. We know that. I mean, we're not trying to slow down or impede anything. We're certainly simply asking for reasonable protections about the edge conditions. If any member of this committee would be living in any of the homes that would be surrounding this facility, you would be here at this table asking for the exact same thing. So really thank you very much. We appreciate Madam Chair's leadership and Councilmember Jones, your good ideas. I don't know if I can ask a question of the committee, but since it's voted without the rules being suspended, does that basically mean that the council has some discretion as to when it actually moves through the rest of the process? That it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even more if it's in the discretion?
Yeah. It will move at the direction of the district council member.
I thank you so much for your time. We all thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Yes, please come forward. I believe your names were already called. Were your names
I
called?
don't think they were, but we did turn in
Okay, well, just state your name for the record then.
Okay. I don't know how to turn this on. Can you hear me?
It's on, we can hear you.
It's on for me.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Frances Bourne. I live in East Falls at the corner of Penn and Fox Streets. So I'm about a half a block from the water treatment plant and the Revolutionary War cannon that marks the corner of Fox and Queen Lane, in case no one knows about that. So I thank you for this opportunity. I was once told, a wise man said, "Your urgency is not my emergency." That gentleman was our own councilman, Curtis Jones, in a meeting with the water department. So I'd like to preface my little statement with that. I feel as if this is almost a moot point, but I'll continue. The change that the water department is asking for right now is neither an emergency or an urgency. And we've been told by the water department at different points by different individuals that delaying consideration of this bill will not impact any aspect of this project, not its funding, not its planning, not its timeline, not its consideration. So we're also receiving mixed messages from the Water Department. The residents and homeowners of East Falls will be significantly impacted by this project and deserve to be more than just a checklist on PDW's to-do list. Trust us is not an agreement any of you would accept any more than we should. It's time for the Water Department to stop claiming its mission to provide clean water does not allow it to respect its neighbors. We should all be committed to doing both. So we're only asking, as our other community members, is where the Water Department and the community share common ground. I suspect none of you would want to look out your front door to see a chain link fence topped by a parking lot, topped by barbed wire, a parking lot, or a transmission tower, and we don't either. We have collaborated with PWD in the past and are only asking for the opportunity to do so again. The fencing and lighting required by Homeland Security that now faces Queen Lane illustrates that working together, it results in a project that both sides can and should be proud of. And there are other impacts here we're not even yet aware of because there is no plan. The fencing and lighting required and how it affects our neighbors on the Abbotsford Falls side and the Allegheny West side. They're not aware of this process, and we haven't had time to involve them in our efforts. So without due diligence now, it eliminates not only our voice, but yours as well in the future, as that's been well explained. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes. Thank you. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning. I'm Bill Hoffner, Hoffner. I'm at 3101 West Penn Street. Francis and I live together. She's my other half. Our house dates from 1904, so it's not much longer after the Waterworks was founded on that block. And I'm not going to add, I think the testimony on both sides has been great this morning. I think I'm better informed. I think you all are better informed, so I thank you for the time. I'm here to represent not just myself, but I've been coordinating some of the petitioning, which Councilman Jones has been receiving. So part of the things I submitted were the comments from 16 of the folks while we were gathering petitions, some of the folks who actually took the time out to add some comments, so I left that with your documents. I left a copy of the petition itself. There's now 151 signatures as of this morning, or yesterday yesterday afternoon or evening, 11 o'clock. So there's 151, 150 of which are for the 19129 zip code. One is from 19144. So I want to thank the fellow East Falls folks who showed up this morning, took the time out. I appreciate their effort to come out this morning. Everyone has work to do, and we're all busy, and I appreciate your time certainly very much. Thank you so much, and thank you. And again, I can't add anything further through the testimony. I think I'm impressed. I appreciate everything everyone's done this morning for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you coming down this morning. Thank you so much. Can we have the clerk call the next panel to testify?
There are no other testifiers.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the record that has not been called? No? Okay. Councilman Jones? Chair recognizes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence. So where we are is not as far as one might think. There are some conceptual community benefit agreements that the question is, how enforceable will it be in 10 years? And so what we hope to do by passing this bill out of committee without a rule suspension is slow it down a little bit so that we can get the Law Department, get the Planning Commission to look at our options on enforceability, to look at that in a way that says, all right, without changing it, is there a way to do a separate agreement, piece of legislation that is connected to the budget reviews that we might be able to do to give the community some sense of trust but verify. And so with what you did today, Madam Chair, thank you for allowing us to pass it out, but slow it down so that we can get that kind of conversation going. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to bring everyone together and convene everyone so that we can find an arrangement, an agreement that everyone can live with. And, you know, we can disrupt the quality of life for the residents as little as possible. So thank you so much. That being said, and if there's no one else here to testify, that concludes the business of this committee on rules for today. Thank you all very much for your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.